I've never been afraid of using Uber. I work as a bartender in downtown Chicago, and late-night rides home are just part of my routine. After years of getting off work around 2 a.m., calling an Uber felt as normal as locking the bar before leaving. One Friday night, I finished my shift a little later than usual. It was around 2:17 a.m. when I stepped outside. The streets were almost empty. The rain had just stopped, leaving the roads wet enough to reflect every streetlight. I was exhausted, so instead of taking the train, I opened the Uber app. A driver accepted my request within seconds. His name was Mark. He had over 3,000 trips completed and a 4.98 star rating. Everything looked completely normal. 5 minutes later, a black Toyota Camry pulled up exactly where the app said it would. I got in, confirmed my name, and the driver simply nodded. He didn't smile. He didn't greet me. He just started driving. First, I didn't think much of it. Some drivers like to keep things quiet. For the first few minutes, everything matched the route shown on my phone. Then, without saying a word, he took a right turn the GPS hadn't suggested. I looked down at my screen. The blue route immediately recalculated. I assumed there must be traffic or road construction, but something felt off. The streets became quieter. The buildings disappeared. Instead of passing restaurants and apartment blocks, we were surrounded by old warehouses and empty parking lots. I looked out the window, then back at the app. That's when I noticed something that instantly made me sit up straight. The car on my screen wasn't moving anymore, even though we still were. Stared at my phone for a few seconds, waiting for the map to catch up. It never did. The little blue car stayed frozen several blocks behind us while the real car kept moving through unfamiliar streets. I refreshed the app. Nothing changed. I looked up and noticed we hadn't passed another vehicle in almost 2 minutes. The warehouses outside looked abandoned. Most of the streetlights were either broken or flickering. Trying not to sound nervous, I asked, "Is everything okay?" The app says we're off route. The driver kept his eyes on the road. After a few seconds, he finally answered. "Main roads closed." That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just those 3 words. I checked outside for construction signs or roadblocks. There weren't any. Then his phone rang. He didn't answer. The screen lit up for only a second, but I caught something strange. There was no contact name, no phone number. Simply said, "Unknown caller." The ringing stopped. 10 seconds later, it rang again. This time the driver quickly flipped the phone face down before I could see anything else. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I quietly opened messages and tried sending my live location to my friend. The message refused to send. No service. That didn't make sense. Chicago usually had excellent signal even late at night. I tried calling 911. The call failed instantly. Now I was paying attention to every turn. We weren't heading toward my apartment anymore. The driver slowed as we entered a deserted industrial district surrounded by chain-link fences and old brick buildings. Then he pulled into a narrow side road. There were no houses, no businesses, just darkness. The car slowed almost to a stop. Without turning around, the driver spoke in a calm voice. "Someone's been following us since downtown." The words hit me like ice water. Before I could ask what he meant, bright white headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. A black SUV rolled slowly into the same road behind us and stopped about 30 feet away. For a second, nobody moved. The SUV stayed behind us with its headlights aimed straight at our car. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I looked at the driver. He was still watching the rearview mirror. Then, without warning, he hit the gas. The Camry shot forward, turned left through a narrow alley, then made 2 quick turns that completely disoriented me. The SUV followed for a few seconds, then it disappeared. Neither of us spoke. About a minute later, we were back on a normal road with traffic lights and late-night diners. It felt like we'd suddenly returned to the real world. The driver finally looked at me through the mirror. "You should never let anyone know you're going home after leaving work this late." That was the longest sentence he'd spoken the entire ride. A few minutes later, he dropped me off in front of my apartment. The fare was exactly what the app had estimated. Before getting out, I thanked him. He simply nodded and drove away. I walked inside, locked the door, and tried to calm myself down. About 10 minutes later, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the Uber app. The trip wasn't there. No completed ride. No receipt. No driver's name. Nothing. I thought the app had glitched, so I checked my bank account. No charge. The payment had completely disappeared. The next morning, I contacted Uber support. After verifying my account, they replied that there had been no trip booked from my account at 2:17 a.m. I even told them the driver's name. They couldn't find anyone matching that trip. For a while, I convinced myself I had imagined part of the night. Until 3 days later, when I finished another late shift, I walked outside and noticed the same black SUV parked across the street. Its engine was off. The windows were too dark to see inside. As soon as I looked at it, it slowly pulled away. I haven't seen it since. I still use Uber whenever I work late. But now I always do one thing before getting into any car. I take a screenshot of the driver's profile, because if that ride really happened, I want proof that the driver existed. My name is Daniel, and this happened 4 months after my daughter was born. My wife and I had recently moved into a quiet duplex outside Portland, Oregon. It wasn't a luxury home, but it was affordable, and with a newborn, that was all we cared about. Within the first few weeks, strange little things started happening. Kitchen cabinet doors would be open every morning even though we'd closed them before bed. Our downstairs neighbor even asked us to stop dragging furniture around after midnight. The problem was, we never moved anything. The room above his bedroom was our daughter's nursery, and the only thing inside was her crib. We laughed about it and blamed the old house. A few weeks later, my wife took our daughter to visit her parents, leaving me alone for the weekend. Saturday morning felt completely normal until the baby monitor suddenly flashed. Signal lost. At first, I thought the Wi-Fi had stopped working, but my phone was still connected. A few seconds later, the monitor came back online. Then my daughter screamed. It wasn't a normal baby cry. It sounded terrified. I sprinted upstairs. The hallway felt unusually cold. When I entered the nursery, she was standing in her crib, crying uncontrollably. The second I picked her up, she calmed down. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The baby monitor hadn't disconnected because of the internet. Someone had physically turned it off using the power button. I searched every room, every closet, every window. Both doors were still locked from the inside. There was no sign that anyone had been inside the house. Then I noticed a strange metallic smell drifting through the nursery. It disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared. That night, I checked the security camera outside the front door. Nobody had entered. Nobody had left. But at 10:18 a.m., the exact moment the monitor lost connection, the nursery light switched off, then back on. No power outage. No electrical problems. Just that room. The next morning, before leaving for work, I unplugged the baby monitor and left it on the dresser. When I returned home, it was plugged back in, powered on, and instead of facing the crib, it was pointed directly at the bedroom door. My wife swears she never touched it. I know I didn't either. We still live in that house. Our daughter is almost 2 years old now. Sometimes she'll stand in the nursery doorway, smile, and quietly wave at someone neither of us can see. Have you ever experienced something you still can't explain? Share it in the comments. Your story could be featured in a future video.